Hi everyone, I'm Andrew. I'm the CEO of Elite Star Admission. Welcome to our podcast. So today we'll be talking with Charlene. She is an amazing student from Northwestern University. So first we'll ask her a question about her high school days. So back in high school, who was Charlene and what kind of student are you?
So I guess back in high school, I was like a typical I study a lot kind of student. So pretty much I wake up every day, go to class, study, and back and repeat. So it was like very fun in a way that like I felt like I missed out on a lot of experiences back in like high school and middle school. But at the same time, I understood why that happened in the first place because I think getting into university was something that's always been like a pressure or more so like an expectation upon me. And I understood that. And so because of that one goal, I think I was really focused. But on that end, I think that in high school, I really did try my best to enjoy life. So even if like let's say I had classes like classes I chose, it was purely because I generally did like them. So back then I took like chemistry, physics, bio, and math. And I really like those subjects thinking about it now. And so it wasn't necessarily just like a boring experience of typical high school experience. It was more so an high school experience that I really did enjoy because it's something that I enjoyed learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I really helped out later on in like university decisions
Mm-hmm.
as well as choosing what career path I want to take now. So I guess it was really fun back in high school as well. In that
Nice.
aspect.
And I think socially, you mentioned before that you were more of a quiet person too, right? In high school.
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, what was that experience like?
Mm, I guess just because I kind of locked in most of the time,
Yeah.
I didn't really socialize much. But just because knowing that for universities, in the first place, I did think that I would really need a lot of extracurriculars. And so I really did try my best to go out of my way to join like student council, starting like a entrepreneurship club. Those were some of the things that I did. And I think in some ways, it really has shaped my experience in a way that even if I was quiet, even if I was kind of introverted, at the same time, I knew there were moments where I could reach out to people, when I could speak freely with people, just because perhaps we had the same interests. Or I think it was just something that I really enjoyed both sides. So I can have my own time while also still talking to people in that way. So
Okay,
it was really great.
makes sense. Okay. And then in terms of like inspiration, where do you take your inspiration from, or who inspires you?
Mm-hmm. I think my biggest inspirator was my mom in the way that when as I grew up, she always told me that if I want something in life, I will always definitely have to work hard for it. Even if I have talent, even if I don't, even have the skill, I think hard work still really does play a lot in terms of achieving what you want. And I think because of that, it's more than just for myself, but it's also for those around me, for the parents that raised me, for the community that guided me. And so because of that, I really always wanted to be like the best version of myself. And I think a version that I could achieve was at that time through studying. Just because again, I was a student, that was practically my main job. And I understood how university or how the community around me could shape my future. And so because of that, I think that was always the main priority in terms of goals. And keeping that in mind, I think everything that I've done pretty much revolves around that. And so I think that was my biggest motivator throughout high school up till now, actually.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
nice. And in terms of like a specific moment of when you thought about applying to universities and you are trying to apply for a top ranking university, was there like a specific moment where you decided to do that?
I think the memory that stood out to me the most was when I was speaking with you, actually.
Oh.
Because back then I thought that, I guess, growing up in a family that has always been pretty they didn't stress the importance of a top university to me. As long as I was happy, they were really happy. And I think because of that, in some ways, I never really thought about university as much until I met you, until I met Caitlin actually. And she started talking to me about her experience going through the application process and then thinking about a university that suits you, not just a university just because of the ranking. And so just going through like all the options back then, I think we kind of discussed through Princeton a lot, just because I felt like back then I had a lot of interest till now actually, especially in chemistry. And I felt that there was this one program in Princeton, I think it was the chemical and biological engineering major that most schools didn't have. And I was really interested in chemistry and biology back then. So I think that aspect of Princeton really stood out to me, and I think you understood where I was coming from, and I think that really just shaped my entire experience of why I really wanted a top university at that point. But not so because of the ranking, but more so because I think it is where I could potentially fit in the next few years, just knowing myself, reflecting through myself, through the essays as well. So
Yeah.
I think that was pretty much what I really wanted.
Yeah, I remember Caitlin, because she got into UPenn, and I think I remember kind of like telling you that Northwestern has a similar vibe in terms of like
Yeah, when I was
the
applying.
campus, the interdisciplinary nature, and also like being a top 20. And the school size is pretty similar too, right? So that's kind of interesting. And then in terms of your sort of like challenges in high school, academics, activities, or something more personal, were there any challenges that you faced?
I think it was more so reminding myself of who I am. That was a challenge back in high school because thinking about it now, I think I did more things when I was in high school than now here in university. Um, so every day I would wake up, go to class, and then after school I would go to tuition lessons, whether it be Chinese lessons, math lessons. There were always lessons until the end of the day, until let's say 10 or 11 p.m. At that point. And I think because of that, I never really had the time to really appreciate what other else there is about me, and never really got to experience like fully explore all my interests. So I think that's what I really struggle for the most. But of course, with that really just comes with the pressure of, well, you want the best, right? So you try your best to maintain like a 4.0 GPA.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, it was like really just my own expectations that I placed on myself. So thinking about it now, maybe I could have spent more time, let's say Saturdays, Sundays, instead of going lessons, I could have spent more time playing, let's say basketball, or just finding other hobbies. I think that was something I really struggled with. Um, but more so than that, I think another aspect that I kind of struggled through, but I think I really grew to appreciate a lot, was the structure of everything. Because back in high school, everything was planned. Teachers really did care about you in a way that now in university, you would have to go up to professors themselves to ask questions. Back then in high school, everyone really just, like teachers ask you, oh, do you understand what I'm talking about? I think that's something that I really appreciate now thinking about it. And back then, I kind of struggled. Again, I think we mentioned earlier that I was quite an introverted person. So I think those aspects when the teacher reached out to me was also quite difficult in a way that I wasn't so sure on how I should respond to them, or the best way I should respond to them, because I really did want to be the best version of myself, but also at the same time wanted them to see me as a good student, right? So I think that was also another aspect that I kind of struggled with, but I appreciate it now because it really did challenge me and help me a lot when I got to university. Now that I've put more happy, I suppose.
Right. Because I think I remember when I first got to college too, like you don't have a set time in terms of the classes that you take. And in high school, you have to go to school from like 8 to 3. But then in college, it's like you get to set your own time.
Yeah.
So in a way, you have more time because there's like some breaks. But that sometimes becomes like a bit confusing when you first got to college, right? Because then
What do I
you have
do?
to adjust.
Yeah. Like
What do you do?
productivity and all that.
Yeah. And you can't like play too much because of it. Because then you have more time.
Yeah, I think that's something I struggled with too.
Yeah.
Later on.
Right. And then in terms of your college application, when you think about the time that you were applying to college, like what was the most stressful part for you?
Honestly, I remember this very well. I think it was during summer break of year 11. You were texting me a lot about writing essays, and I think at that time I was in summer school as well. So I think I found it hard to balance between my summer school course load and then writing the essays at the same time, just because I really couldn't find that balance. Um, But I think essays was definitely the hardest part for me, just because I wasn't the best writer growing up. I don't think I am right now, but um, I think that's something I really had a hard time with because again, I never really had the time to reflect on myself, and I feel like essays should really define you. Those essays really shape how you think, and because of that, I think the creativity, the brainstorming part was really hard for me. Just getting a single word out there was hard. So I think having more time to be able to think about it was something I really appreciated from your end, I suppose. Back in June, I still remember that very well. I was like, I'm sorry if I haven't started. But yeah, that was like some of the aspects I think I really struggled with for applications because extracurriculars, I think that just came along because I was pretty active back in high school. So the only part that I think I really struggled with was essays.
Yeah, I think the essay is hard too because there's no right or wrong answer, and it's hard to like pick up a topic and start writing it because we're not used to like writing freestyle creatively. So that's like where most students do struggle with that. And then in terms of your acceptance to Northwestern, like, can you like tell the moment that you got in? Where were you? What were you doing? So I think it was around 7 a.m. in my room. I remember this pretty well. It was a sunny day, and I was really happy that day. I had a good feeling. I woke up with an alarm clock. I was ready, and then I saw my email. I opened it, and on that same day, there was both USC and Northwestern at the same time. And I think I was really nervous because that was the only day, well, other than Ivy Day, in which I had to open as many acceptance letters than that. So when I first got into Northwestern, I think the first thought that I had was being so relieved because at that point, I think it was pretty early on. So the only university offers that came out so far were the UK schools, Oxbridge, as well as Princeton REA, and then the other EAs. So I think Northwestern was one of the earlier ones. And so just getting into a school that I really liked because Anna's in our DNA. I wrote that in my essay. And I think that was something I really, really appreciated because, I got into school I like. So even if like the other schools, maybe like I do Ivy Day, even if I didn't get into those schools, I would still be happy. And I think I really appreciated it a lot. I cried actually that day. So it was really a nice day. And of course, I'm really appreciative of this just because I feel like Northwestern, I understand just like how college admission is in a way that's very random. So even if you have like the best ECs, the best grades, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can get into a school. And so I think just getting to Northwestern that time was really a changing moment in my time, like in my life. So I'm really happy now that where I am. Really appreciative of that. So thank you to Andrew for helping me. Yeah, remember the N and the DNA. I think that kind of is the motto of Northwestern. Well, not really their official motto, but kind of like what they stand for. What what is in your word like the N in the DNA? What was it back then? I think it was something to do with chemistry for sure. Uh, I think that I think I mentioned something about chemistry and entrepreneurship, just because those are the two things I was really interested back in high school. So mentioning a lot about environmental sustainability as well as climate change research was something that really interested me, and I mentioned that a lot in my essays as well. And what I find really cute is that at Northwestern, like we can say Anne is in our DNA, like everyone says that, right? But it's really interesting to see how it actually applies to everyone. Just because in Northwestern, I've met so many people who are double majors, triple majors, to the point where finding someone with a single major is very rare, which I think is pretty unique. And if they are a single major, it's usually BSMS in 4 years. So I think it really does reflect a lot on students. And so when you meet Anna's in our DNA, I think you really have to showcase the fact that you are passionate in it. And I think that was something I was happy about. And I really like the idea. And that's why I think Western really kind of resonated with me back then. Nice. And then what other universities did you get into? Uh, I applied to the US and the UK. So I applied to like 23 schools, I think.
back then, quite a lot, including 5 UCs. So for the US, I applied to Princeton, HYP basically, Penn, Cornell, and then there was Northwestern, as well as other schools like BU, BC, and UW, and UMich as well actually. For the UK, it was Oxford, as well as like UCL, Imperial, and all that. But I think the ones that I got into were mostly the UCs. I got into Berkeley, LA, and then USC, and BCBU, as well as Northwestern. So I think thinking about it now, it was kind of wide variety, I would say. Like from top down, like top 25 mostly, like a safety here and there. I think my choices were quite interesting, but I wouldn't really recommend it just because there were so many essays to write, which I kind of regret it now because I felt like I could spend more time with the other essays, especially because some schools, like, I remember Princeton had like 8 or something.
Princeton had like around 3, but Stanford has like 9.
Yeah, I remember one of the schools. Oh, was it Yale? I think.
Yale has.
The one of the 50-word essays.
Oh yeah.
Oh, those were really hard. I remember that.
Short answer essays.
Yeah, and
Did you
Yeah,
go to
pretty good.
Stanford?
no, I
Oh, you
didn't.
did? Okay.
Yeah, but those are like different level of creativity.
Yes. Yes.
Because, like, I feel like normally you would think writing a shorter essay is easier, but then once you start writing, you realize that making it into 50 words is like really, really hard. And so that was really challenging, and I felt that I could have spent more time writing other essays instead of that.
Yeah.
So maybe 23 universities weren't exactly the best choice, but it got me where I am, right? So I am grateful for that too.
Because you wrote, I think, at least around 30 essays, right? With
It was
those
a
lists
lot.
of universities.
Yeah, I remember I had to like literally take some essays, and those that were like quite similar to prompts,
Yeah.
and just copy paste it and changed it. And I don't think that was the best approach, but it was the only way I could think of to be able to do all of that.
Yeah.
So
Do you remember what was your idea for a personal statement for Common App?
I'm gonna think. Oh, it was about food, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was something to do with nasi goreng.
Okay.
And In-N-Out burgers, which is so random. And then I remember thinking about my heritage in a way that I grew up in a multicultural kind of environment and how that kind of shaped who I am. Being more understanding, being more open, and willing to try new things. I think that was something that really just stood out to me and my personality, I feel. And I think that's definitely something I wrote about because food is also something I was really passionate about. So I think I just mix here and there. But I think that was pretty much the gist of my personal statement.
Okay. And then coming to college life, so now you're at Northwestern, your freshman year, you got there. What surprised you the most about Northwestern initially?
I think I mentioned this earlier, but the cold. Okay, you know it's cold. You know it's supposed to be cold, but it hits differently when you're staying in that same place for a full year than when you're just visiting. Because at one point, I think when I first got to Northwestern, around January, February, it was like negative 27 degrees Celsius. And that was like Antarctica level. I don't even know what it was. And I was freaking out because, again, I live in Indonesia where it's hot 24/7. And this 18 years of my life, it was just hot. And then I am suddenly put into this place where it's cold every single day. And it was recently, actually like last year, it was snowing till May, like April or May. So the weather really hits differently. So that was something I was really not expecting. But I really liked it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Another aspect that I think really shocked me was how collaborative everyone is. Because of course, like being in a top 10 school, a lot of the stories I hear are about, again, whether it be like competitiveness or like sabotage. Those are definitely some things that come up a lot. Maybe because they're interesting topics. I'm not too sure, but it's definitely something you hear a lot about. But when I first got into Northwestern, I was really happy and really appreciative just how friendly everyone was. Like the people next to me in class, in our first class ever, it was an engineering physics class, which I totally didn't expect. But everyone just started talking to each other. Hey, have you done your homework? Oh, did you take a pre-reading? Oh, what is your professor talking about? Oh, let me show you my notes. Like, I think that was really rare in a way that even back in high school I didn't experience. So just having everyone there working together to complete an assignment, not only does it of course help you with your studies, but it also helps you like bond with friends, whether it be trauma bonding or just purely talking to them after doing your assignments. I think that was really, really special. That I didn't think about would happen to me at my time at Northwestern. An interesting fact that I think was also very surprising was that a lot of my friends wanted to transfer out fall quarter, freshman fall, and I personally also did want to transfer out, um, because I think Northwestern doesn't really prepare you in a way that they really surprise you if you didn't have a very strong academic background in the past. Because as soon as I got in, I remember the professor telling me, "Oh, you have a midterm next week," and like the assignments weren't like easy assignments in a way I could complete them in one day. It was more so of spending 48 hours in office hours, doing it together with the TA, then use up the assignment. So it was really challenging and it was really a shock to me in the beginning. And just seeing my friends out there in other cities, enjoying their first quarter, spending time at the beach while it was cold for us. I think that was a big ass thing that I really remembered a lot. So I was potentially thinking of transferring, but I'm really glad that I stuck here because I felt like I really did meet my true friends here at Northwestern. Finding people who are my community and who are, I would say, just like the people that really do belong with me. And I think that's something I really appreciate now that I think about it in the long run.
Yeah, and I think for in terms of friends, how was the adjustment coming from Indonesia to Northwestern, socially? Because I know you were quiet before. Like, how did you adjust to that?
Yeah, so I had a social shock in a way that back in Indonesia, I was from National High, so that was like a class of 30-ish people. And so while I really did enjoy my time at NAH, I felt like I couldn't necessarily meet different people from different backgrounds in a way that everyone pretty much grew up together, so everyone pretty much had like similar interests and hobbies, as well as personality, I would say more so. But then when you start going to college, especially college just Northwestern, in which there aren't too many Indonesians, it really is different because you really get to find the opportunity to meet with someone who really just resonates with your personality, the perfect fit. And I think that's something that I found my best friend here at Northwestern. And I think it was a shock in a way that because I was in such an environment where I actually had to find friends again, because I was in NH for 12 years, I really did try my best to be so social. So I don't think there was a single day where I didn't go out back in my freshman fall, which was kind of a bit too much, I think, now that I think about it. I really always like had a lunch, had a dinner with a different person each day. So I think it was really a social shock in a way because I couldn't really focus on my academics that way, which I think took a hit that quarter, which I quickly learned from not to do. But now that I found my friends, I think maybe it was just part of the transitioning process of going into university in general. So not necessarily just Northwestern, I think. But yeah, meeting people is always very nice, and especially when they're from like different identities, right? Because you get to learn more about their culture as well as learning more about their perspectives. And I think that's what's really important about going to college, especially abroad. Not just to keep your own values, but also to learn from others. And that's what I really value, I think, in my time here at college.
Yeah, yeah. I think the one thing that I really value a lot, when I was living in the U.S. is like the many diverse background of people from different income level, different nationalities, and you get to like really learn from them.
Yeah.
And then also in terms of like adjustment, like in terms of like culturally or socially, were there like things that you were like before you left that you thought about, and then once you got there, that it was like different or something that you didn't think about that was different?
I think culturally, there is definitely quite a difference in a way that, let's say, here in Indonesia, you would normally, like, let's say they call elder person like hi, sir, miss, mister. Back in like in the US, it's just like not like that. I think it's more open in a way that people are generally more friendly,
Yeah.
quite more friendly, and so you can really just connect with people from all ages. I think that was something that was really different as compared to here in Indonesia, where you usually just hang out with people from your own age, right?
Yeah.
But then again, like in US, you could like talk to a random professor and still have some common interests here and there, and they would really just be willing to learn more about you and what your hobbies are. Like, oh, what do young people do nowadays? I think that's what my professor asks me a lot, and so that's pretty interesting because I feel like that isn't something that really is common here in Indo as compared to the US. So I really do see the difference, but at the same time, of course, you have to learn that there are different social cultures that you have to get used to, of course. I just transitioning down from Indo and in the US and going back and forth.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's definitely different.
And in terms of your kind of like the last 2 years in college, do you have any like fun stories to tell?
I fear I am not a very good storyteller. Let me think. I wouldn't say I really have a fun story, but I somehow got lost in a train station.
Okay.
I think that was one of the
What?
wildest days that I've had so far. Because I think Chicago is known to have a quite dangerous, let's say,
Neighborhoods.
neighborhoods, right? And like trains, like public transport is not exactly the safest, especially the further south we go. So like on a red line, that is practically a no-go in some areas, of course. And that day, I think I was being a little adventurous. I wanted to try it out. I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. I'm in America. I'm in Chicago. Let me try it. I want to be a local. I want to try it out. But then I was only supposed to go to like I think which Grand Station, where like it was still Michigan Avenue, everything was pretty safe.
Mhm.
That was a red line. But then somehow I ended up in 65th, which was like practically even locals say you're not supposed to go to.
Mhm.
But I somehow ended up there because I couldn't read the map correctly. I think I went the other way instead. So that was honestly completely my fault. But that day was pretty scary in a way that you could tell the vibe really changed, I think. Like people started getting more quieter and there were just like random people on the streets kind of like looking kind of suspicious.
Mm.
And so yeah, I am glad I am back here again. And that was definitely something that I went through that I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right. Nice. Yeah, I think that's like I probably have done that before too, while living in the US. But it's something that I guess like people try to avoid,
Mhm.
or if they do go there, then try to be more careful.
You could say you've been there now though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's always something.
And then in terms of your career path, like what are you thinking about currently for career path, and what have you been doing to get there?
So for career path, while I have been engineering, I have been quite interested in the business kind of side of things. So for the last 2 years, I've been interning at PwC and EY for advisory as well as assurance. So again, more business side of things. But then now I think I'm pretty much focused on consulting. I know it's kind of basic, but it is interesting. I would say that.
If a student is thinking about applying to Northwestern, like what would you say to them in terms of the benefit or why you should like Northwestern?
Okay, like I think first of all, the one big benefit of Northwestern, if you think about long term, is definitely career placement. Just because I felt like Northwestern's such a small place in a way that people really easily share information with each other, and so because of that, you would definitely get coffee chats. The alumni is very willing to help, and it's just really easy to connect with people from all around. So for sure, that is really great as well, particularly for consulting and banking. However, just beyond that, on more fun side of things, I think Evanston in particular is very, very safe. Just because other than the Northwestern community, there's practically only housing area, and it's a very small city actually. Like I feel like it's like not even a third of Jakarta. So it's a very small city, but then at the same time, you're like 20 minutes away from Chicago. So if you do want to go into the city, shop, have some fun, that's always readily available. But then if you want to lock in, I think Evan's such a great place because it's very quiet, very peaceful. So you get to spend your days perhaps going to a cafe, studying, or just studying in the library in general because pretty much all our libraries are 24/7. So that is always available. And I think Northwestern's a really great place because personally for me, it's where I've truly found my friends. And Northwestern people in general are very friendly, so it's always easy to meet someone who you really vibe with, who you're really close with, and can just really share yourself with more. So I think that's something really special at Northwestern. And other than the fact that it is also a very interdisciplinary school in a way that's very rare, again, as I mentioned earlier, to see someone with just a single major. And so you really get to explore a lot of your interests, perhaps in different schools as well. So you can have a major in engineering, but also double major in, like, let's say, economics, right? If you're interested in that, or as well as film or communications. So we have a great variety of those, and I think that's something that really makes my lesson special for me, at least in my personal experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and a lot of good, inspiring stories from you. So hopefully it can benefit a lot to our future students. So thank you for coming to this podcast, and hopefully you have a good the rest of your year at Northwestern.
Thank you so much.